Welcome to the Prehocracy Show. This is the show before the show that you watch after the show.
And the show, of course, that he's referring to is the Adhocracy Show, celebrating marketing, advertising, art, and design.
What? And being the celebrators of marketing that we are here to talk about the king of all marketers, yes, Apple.
It's funny because when I went to a design conference, there was a guy, he had nothing to do with design. He's a big, well-known guy. And he came out and basically was saying how our jobs, what we do, the look and feel and branding and art, how we are a validated group, a validated career because of Apple. Like, we're no longer a commodity. We're no longer like just...
Well, yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I've always said, like, Apple, like, they do make great products, but the reason that they're so successful is because they do the best marketing, not necessarily the best products. I mean, the products are awesome.
The products are great.
But whenever someone tries to get into an argument with me about, like, well, this product's better, like, whoa, okay. The reason Apple is successful is because of their marketing. The fact that every other company does, is this better than the iPhone? Is this better than the iPad? Is this better than the... I mean...
Everyone's pointing towards number... Well, the same thing happens in fast food. McDonald's is number one. And very few times does McDonald's ever acknowledge anyone else but themselves.
Now, the interesting one that I thought... Because I've had this conversation with my sister and about how, you know, it's... You rarely... I mean, the McDonald's, the McWhopper that they were going to do a few years ago.
Oh, yeah.
Combination. And it's like, in order to do that, McDonald's had to acknowledge that Burger King exists.
Yeah.
and they weren't going to do that.
They sort of forced their hand to do so.
Yeah. But then the big one last year when Supergirl, when The Flash came on to Supergirl, when there's this somewhat cross network, I think CW is a subsidiary of NBC or there's something there. But The Flash did this crossover episode to NBC. NBC, like the huge corporation that, you know, is mainstream. They allowed the CW to do a crossover episode because they needed the help, which blew me away. I mean, I didn't think that anybody would ever do that. I didn't think it was ever going to actually happen that way. But we still haven't seen like cross network like CBS and NBC. Like that would be like crazy.
Yeah. There's definitely within like franchises and different things, they're helping themselves within different ways. But yeah. I mean, that's one thing Apple does is they do not acknowledge, like when they're comparing their phone, they don't say here's a competitor.
No.
They may.
Well,
but usually it's against themselves. Like this is how fast our iPhone is against last year's.
Yeah.
Against the last one versus the 6S or the. And it's there's many times where I've used that example to kind of get a point across and be like, okay, why advertise for number 2 when you're number 1?
Yep.
You don't need to.
That's hard. That's kind of us, you know. We don't advertise for other, you know.
we do.
We're number 1. We know it. We're not going to acknowledge those other ones. We're the number 1. We're the number 1 YouTube channel called the Adhocracy Show on YouTube.
That is absolutely true. That is an absolute true fact.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about some of these Apple products. Just to give a little bit of a background, I have been called an Apple fanboy before. I know people who are much more of a fanboy than I, but I worked at an Apple reseller.
Oh, wow. Okay.
For quite a number of years. And so, I mean, that was one thing that kind of set an influence in my design. I got to meet a lot of people in the graphic community, in the art community, in the design community because of that job. Because
they all, like, live in Apple.
Yeah. I went to ad agencies and set up their computers for them, got things set up, got it plugged in, got it all... And so I'd, be able to talk to people. But so it's funny that I would be called a fanboy because I worked for an Apple, but I was on PCs for 21 years. I had a Lisa 2 or whatever, an Apple IIc or.
See, I when I went to college, I got my a MacBook, and just because I got tired of my parents' PC being so slow and getting viruses all the time, I was like, I don't want to deal with that. like their products. I have their products, but it's mainly for convenience rather than because I just love them. It's just that they're easy to work with. And I've never had too many problems with it. I mean, it's been a good experience every time. So why change?
Yeah, that's true.
But they came out with 3 big new products.
There was a lot. There were a lot of little things
4.
that were kind of around.
Yeah,
but these are the 3.
These are the big 3/4.
So the first one would be the iPhone 7.
7 and 7 Plus.
7 Plus. They're beautiful. They're following their same design guidelines. The improvements that they typically make to the phones are just enough to make not the ones right previous upgrade, but 2 versions back.
Yeah.
When you get 2 versions back, you're kind of like, ooh, that's got this that that they had in this that I didn't really need, but now I can see why I need it. And so that's how I always usually did it with every other. And I think that was another genius business move for them, is that they're continually coming out with stuff that they have 2 floods of people that are going to come. Like, sure, their sales may not be off the chart with this one phone, but you almost have to look at it as like the 7 and then what comes next, the 7S, probably.
So basically, your sales goals are you kind of split them between the 2 because that there's going to be a group that buys this one, there's going to be a group that buys this one, and it's going to leapfrog. Yeah,
and I think that's, instead of just a huge boom in sales and then nothing for a whole year, or however many years it takes, or whatever their cycle is. I think it's around 9 some odd months that they usually do this. But you're creating big bumps, big leaps and stuff, but they also offset it with when they're releasing new MacBooks, new computers, new tablets, all of that stuff. Some of the features, the water resistant stuff.
Water resistant. I still don't know whether I can. If you drop your phone in the sink, is it dead? That's all I want to know.
You mean toilet?
Let's just say sink, because if I drop it in the toilet, I'm not going to go get it. No. Well, because the picture they showed, if you notice, the picture they showed is somebody falling into a pool with their phone out like this, but the phone actually was not getting wet in the photo. And I was like, wait a minute. I know this one. You guys are trying to fool me into thinking it's waterproof when you said water resistant.
But I mean that a lot of phones have been now touting this. There have been technology. There was a company that I worked for that they purchased a water resistant technology that,
like a hydrophilic.
Yeah. Basically, like it would
polysyllabic.
Just using big words. But hydrophilic.
Oh, dang it, hydrophobic.
Hydrophobic. Yeah, you said hydrophilic is when it likes the water, when it either absorbs it or...
Well, if they can just get it to absorb the water, and then maybe that'll fix it. Just make it so it runs on water. All right, yeah, so hydrophobic, something that repels water.
Yeah, I mean, the technology is getting closer and closer to being better and better, and we'll talk about the removing of the audio port and other things like that.
Courage. All right.
Let's talk about that now.
Let's do.
What was your thought?
They should not have said it was because of courage.
Why?
Because it touted too much. Like, I wish they would have said something like more about like risk. Like, we're risk takers. But it kind of, when you think about courage, it's associated with like really serious things, like saving a child from a burning building,
changing a standard that's 100 years old.
Yeah, exactly.
When I heard it, I was kind of when it, like, because I saw it pop up and it said courage, and I was listening to a live, or not a live. I was watching a live feed, like a live someone blogging it. And they were like, "Oh, courage!" Oh, blah, like they went off. And I've watched a lot of people like freak out about a word used, but it is courage. I mean, think like, okay, here is a standard.
Yeah.
I mean, and they have done this with lightning. They have done this. They tried to do it with fire, or what's it called? the plug, Firewire.
Firewire, yeah.
I mean, they for a long time have really tried to push, a standard and a better, standard. But they usually do it alongside with something else. They're usually like, okay, here's the standard, and here's how you can get around it and they kind of are right now. But
yeah.
But I think in a big way, it would take a lot of courage to be like, okay, I'm completely going against the standard.
I would if it was a startup. If it's the startup, it's like, we're gonna do something that nobody's done before, and we're just going to take a risk, like a huge risk, because people might not buy this. But
this is a huge risk, though.
No, it's not. People are going to buy the phone.
They will buy the phone.
Because they have a following.
This is their flagship product.
Yeah, but...
This is millions of dollars go into this. It's put out. This is a moneymaker for them. And they're taking how many pairs of headphones do you have that have an audio jack? Every single one of them, right?
Yeah. Well, no, I have some Bluetooth.
Okay, some Bluetooth ones. But they're pushing us in a direction.
No, I totally I agreed with all of their other reasons. Mm-hmm. But I thought that saying we're doing this because of courage, and maybe it's not necessarily that I disagree with it. I do understand that it's a courageous thing to do, but it was more I thought it was like for marketers. Like, how'd they not see that was going to be taken poorly by their audience? Like, I mean, why didn't, that intern in the back, let's maybe not say courage. I think that might not go over so well.
Because when the CEO or the CFO or the CMO says, we're saying courage because...
You think they'd be... Oh, well. All right, moving on.
The cameras are they're always making leaps and bounds in cameras. The extra camera is interesting.
Yeah, well, and the whole bokeh thing where it's like we're gonna be able to do it. It sounds more like it's photoshopping in bokeh.
Yeah.
So that's why I was confused.
It's also interesting that it's only for the Plus because for me, I won't go to the Plus just because of size. It's way too big for me. I mean, I've got massive hands and I could probably handle it, but...
Yeah.
I mean,
well, trying to fit in your pocket and...
Yeah, I mean, being that they put it on just that one, I find that interesting.
Well, but they also talk about how much they need more room in order to do stuff, and so the Plus gives them more room for the processor and for everything like that. I don't know.
Brighter display. Again, one of those things that
people are gonna love that in the movie
it's
theater.
not a ton, but it will make a difference. I mean, when you have your phone out in the middle of the day, that brightness sometimes isn't bright enough, and you're squinting.
Or when you're up in the morning and you can't find something, but you don't want to wake everybody up by turning on your flashlight, and you can use your display.
Yeah, the display ends up being pretty nice for that. Powerful chip, stereo.
Why did it take them so long?
Well, probably because they had a headphone port in there.
That's probably what it was. That'll be nice.
Super cool. I mean, it's a small thing again, but I mean, you're always trying to, you're cupping your phone and trying to help people hear your phone. Cool stuff. The power button. I'm interested to see what that's like. Because it's not a real button, but it has taptic feedback, so that's
gonna be interesting.
Again, another thing that's going to help with water resistance and stuff. I mean, the more ports, the more holes, the more little areas where stuff can get in.
Which I loved what they did with the watch when it comes to waterproofing it. That was really cool. We'll talk about that in just a bit.
LTE, meh.
Yeah.
iOS 10. This is one thing advertising wise that just blows me away when a company touts a software advancement or a software thing that we're the only ones that have nose hair facial remover. It's just they'll do a whole ad campaign on some small thing that's just a software thing that's okay, well, we'll just pop that in. We can include that in the next update. That's not a big... So it just... That bugs me to death because it's that if that's your thing, if that small software advancement is your thing, then what? That's not a very good thing. The wireless. So we can talk about the AirPods here.
Yeah. Okay.
What I've heard and what I've read about them is that they're great.
I imagine they are.
And one of the articles, and of course this could be just the writing in the headline kind of trying to catch you in, is the AirPods are the best and most Apple product out there. Like, they are Apple as a product.
That's interesting.
So I can't.
Couldn't use them for running. That's why I was disappointed. I was hoping that they'd have. I don't really like the Beats one that they showed, and so I don't want those ones. I'm hoping that they allow other companies to use their W2 chip that allows everything to sync up, their Bluetooth technology that they don't want to call Bluetooth technology, to sync everything up. I hope that they allow other companies, because I think I like that part of it, but I use wireless headphones for running, and constantly, when I use my earbuds, then I'm glad they're attached to a string, because they fall out all the time, and so I can't use those for running.
It's interesting.
I wonder how they can do the start and stop and play and pause and stuff. Is that all going to be through Siri, or is there going to be like?
I don't know. I think it probably talks about it. I think there was something like you can tap
to Siri, but I didn't really see anything about how you play music.
How it charges sound.
I read one really funny article about how Apple hates fat people who can't run marathons in less than 5 hours.
Well, that was one thing that was really interesting for me, is that a lot of times, and someone pointed this out in the blog that I was following, or the blogs that I was following, is that they're really kind of moving not completely away from fashion, but they're pushing it very much into a exercise and
I'm okay
activity.
with that.
Yeah, I am too. It's definitely our time period. I mean, everyone's active, everyone's running, everyone's doing something, and
which takes us to the watch.
Yeah.
For years, I have been waiting for this watch. I wanted a watch with GPS, Bluetooth, ability to store music / audiobooks, which I still can't do, kind of. Then I wanted to have a clock, to have step tracking, heart rate monitor, and I couldn't find that. This watch has everything, and I don't want the Nike Plus one, because I want a regular watch that I can wear in public too. But I mean, I love it. I think that putting the GPS, making it waterproof, they nailed it. Mm-hmm. That was the best thing they could have done, because now triathletes, swimmers use it.
They touted that quite a bit. I mean, not only the water, it's sort of waterproof to a certain degree.
50 meters. I mean, you're not going
50
You're not going 50 meters
You're not diving
down.
with this thing.
No, and they say water skiing, but.
But I mean, they've made it so that it's a pretty, and that's the thing. There's not a whole lot of ports. The buttons on the sides, I mean, they're pretty.
Yeah. But and then the whole thing with the speaker expels the water. That was the coolest thing. I was like, that's brilliant. Like, you can add a speaker.
Technology.
I know.
Wow.
I thought that was cool.
Science.
Right. I want one. I probably won't get one until a few years down the road
a little.
Yeah, because I can't afford it.
Yeah, that's one thing for me, is that it's, I mean, almost half the price of a phone, and once they release the next one and this one gets dropped down to a reasonable price, or maybe it might be 2 away, but then I'll probably be able to get one. But they talked about how the phone can work with other things outside of just the apps, like Pokemon Go.
Yep.
I started playing that. I play it way too much now. I knew I would.
Yeah.
That's why I didn't play it for forever. Because Niantic actually came out with a little thing, and it's like a little button one that you push when you're by a stop, or if a Pokemon pops up and you haven't caught it before, you can push it and it'll do the stuff for you. But it looks like a Pokemon and a Google pin at the same time, and it's big and gaudy, and it's like, I'm not gonna advertise that I am.
Put it on your backpack.
I don't carry a backpack.
No, I'm saying, like, if you're a kid.
Oh, well, this is for me though.
Oh.
But I mean,
put it right here. Put like on a lapel pin.
But right. I mean, because that's the thing is the I've always liked the idea of a watch and being able to change the watch faces and all that stuff, but I haven't found, there hasn't been a compelling reason for me, at least so far, that I like absolutely need this watch.
Until now, with the Pokemon Go watch.
No, not even with that.
That's not compelling enough.
But as they continue to open it up and allow people to, take what fabulous tools I have and use myself, and I'll be able to kind of like look and respond, and once it starts having a use to me that like, I'll definitely go for it.
Two things that need to happen with this watch. Number one, Audible needs to create an app for the Apple Watch so I can listen to my books on my watch instead of having to carry my phone with me. Number two, podcasts. You need to be able to listen to podcasts on your watch as well. Once those two things happen, I technically have a third one with an emergency like response thing where you can like send out a text through what I don't want to pay for a data plan, so I probably will never get that. Anyway,
so you need what? Help! I've fallen and I can't get up.
I need the life alert.
Life alert. You want life alert in the
well, they
Apple
have that
Watch.
where you can push the button, but I think it has to go through your phone. Anyway.
All right. Yeah, that's one thing is that it is so tied to your phone that like it's kind of rough in that regard.
All right. Well, we need to get started with this episode.
Yes.
So
in the episode, we're going to talk about
our coping mechanisms.
How to cope.
There's a process.
The 7 stages, the iPhone 7 stages of
Apple. The Apple launch 7 7 stages of Apple products.
Yes.
Of Apple launches. Apple product. I don't know. We'll name it later. Let's start the episode. Okay, I start, right?
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Welcome to the Adhocracy Show. On today's episode,
Apple launched new products.
do we love them or do we hate them?
And how do we process this?
We'll be right back. You start looking at your phone, you're saying, it's way better than my phone. Look at this thing. It has a headphone jack.
A headphone
what
jack?
the heck is it doing with that? This is ugly.
Oh, this
Look
is
at how
awful.
much room is this taking up?